Hi, everyone. I'm John Frank, class of 1985, and happy to see everyone, who's able to join and hear about the clinical law programs. A couple housekeeping issues. First of all, the session is being recorded. Everybody should have seen that, and anybody who's participating will get a chance to get a link to the video recording after the call. We're going to have a question and answer session, and it'll be done by typing your questions, if you've got questions, into the chat. So there won't be an opportunity to literally raise your hand or press on the hand raise. We're going to do it a little more manageable way, hopefully. So send your questions in by chat if you've got questions. I'm going to introduce the panelists. Let me first say the reason I'm happy and excited to be asked to introduce this is because I tried my first case as a lawyer in 1984. I graduated from Michigan Law School in 1985. And I tried my first case in 1984 through the clinical law program in the downtown federal court building there in Ann Arbor under the very close supervision of Paul Reingold. So Paul had kind of just gotten to Michigan and was running the clinic, and we had this opportunity to try this case. I was in Los Angeles summer clerking. My summer clerkship got split, and I came back to Detroit for the second half of the summer, and I said to the firm that I was working with, if you don't mind, of my 6 weeks, I'd like to spend the first week trying this case in Ann Arbor through the clinic, and they said, okay. So I tried the case. We lost badly, but it was a great experience. It was a prisoner's case. His name was Thomas McCullough. He was a prisoner in Marquette. I remember it vividly. He got stabbed between the eyes, and we had a case for reckless indifference, and the jury thought that the prison was negligent but not recklessly indifferent to his safety, and they told us all about it, and we lost. But it was a great opportunity to get into court, stand up, and present a case. And ever since then, I've been as tied into the clinical law program as I felt like I could be. I come every year to judge once or twice the mock trials. I live not that far away. And it's no doubt the biggest, most powerful, most profound experience I had in the 3 years I was there in the law school. And I use the word experience intentionally because that's the whole point. And I think anybody that's been through any of the clinical law programs would attest to the fact that there's really nothing else you can do during the time you're in law school that gives you any better background, especially what I do now, which is litigate all the time. Tremendous amount of confidence showing up in court for the first time, having done it under slightly looser circumstances, a little less pressure maybe the very first time. So I'm happy to be at the beginning of this event. Let me introduce the three panelists very briefly, and then we'll let them go ahead. First, Deborah Chop is going to talk, and she is the law school's Associate Dean for Experiential Education, which is a job that I'm sure didn't exist in the time I was in law school, but definitely should exist. She also directs the Pediatric Advocacy Clinic. She is also the faculty representative to the Child Health Evaluation and Research Center at the U of M. Dana Thompson, Professor Dana Thompson will speak next. She is a 1999 Michigan Law School grad who directs the Transactional Law Program, the Community Enterprise Clinic, and the Entrepreneurship Clinic. She's also on the Wayne State University Board of Directors, I guess in your spare time. And Matt Andres is a 2002 law school grad who directs the law school's Veterans Legal Clinic, came to Michigan from the University of Illinois College of Law, where he started and directed the Elder Financial Justice Clinic, which was the first law school clinic focused on combating financial abuse of seniors. And it's just great even to describe the clinical law program with all those titles compared to where it was obviously quite a long time ago when there was the clinic. So with that, my pleasure to introduce all three of you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm going first here. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see all of you. And John, thank you for the introduction. As he said, I'm the Associate Dean for Experiential Education. I can't even imagine what it was like before this job existed because I work all the time. And I'm also the director of the Pediatric Advocacy Clinic. So I'm going to give you a bird's eye view of our clinical program, and then I'll also spend a few minutes at the end just telling you a little bit about the Pediatric Advocacy Clinic specifically. So I think the most pressing question people might have is, how do we even have clinics during COVID? How is this all working? And I have to be honest with you, March was a shock to the system. Like many of you, we had to figure out really, really quickly how we were going to work remotely, how we were going to continue to teach our students and practice law and supervise our students. So the clinical faculty all gathered together in a classroom. We did not know any better in late February, early March. And we started talking about it, like, how can we ensure access to client files? How will students communicate with each other when they're working in teams? How can we ensure client confidentiality? What happens if one of the professors gets COVID? We had to set up a buddy system so people could cover for each other. But everyone rallied and we learned how to do it. We learned how to teach online. We learned how to supervise our students remotely. There were some bumps in the road. I lost connection in my very first online class and ended up teaching from my tiny little iPhone. But that was the worst it got for me personally. And we persevered and we made it through. Certain clinics, like the Workers' Rights Clinic, which I'll describe more in a few minutes, they do unemployment insurance cases, and they were slammed with phone calls and emails, literally hundreds of phone calls and emails per week. And other clinics stepped in to help them with their enormous caseload because of COVID. We started getting compassionate release cases for elderly prisoners and prisoners with medical issues that would make them more susceptible to COVID. We started just doing everything over Blue Jeans, which was our precursor to Zoom, and by phone. We got to know each other's pets and children and roommates and baking habits. But honestly, the students stayed engaged. I think the clinic work really helped them stay connected to each other and to a larger purpose other than the worry that pervaded their lives. And it really staved off isolation for them. I was scared to look at the course evaluations at the end of the winter 2020 semester, but the students really expressed gratitude for the ability to help people, even while they were undergoing such stressful and uncertain times. So what does our clinical program look like right now? We are almost entirely remote. Some classes are meeting in person, but even in those classes, many students are choosing, they either did not return to Ann Arbor or they're choosing to participate remotely. But everything's functioning well. I expected there to be a decline in enrollment for the fall semester once students realized, and we all realized, that it would look a lot like the winter semester, but that did not happen. Our clinics are full. Many of you graduated from the law school, like John was saying, where the clinical program looked really, really different. Maybe there was a clinic. Right now, we have 17 different clinics. They cover transactional law, appellate work, trial work, tax work. We represent social entrepreneurs. We represent children. We represent the wrongfully convicted. We represent veterans and other vulnerable populations. We have the country's first exclusively 1L clinic, which is the Workers' Rights Clinic. Second semester 1Ls have the opportunity to conduct a full-blown trial before an administrative law judge. They are responsible for developing their cases from start to finish. And the feedback from this clinic is really remarkable. The 1Ls report feeling connected to the reasons that they came to law school in the first place. They report really loving the opportunity to help someone in need, and also feeling more confident when they go into job interviews. Indeed, students who took the Workers' Rights Clinic actually wind up with more job offers than their peers, and we believe it's because they have something to talk about in their interviews. So this 1L clinic is really a great success. In the last 2 years, we've done a lot of hiring. We've hired into our community enterprise clinic, into our entrepreneurship clinic, our civil criminal litigation clinic, the human trafficking clinic, and the innocence clinic. We hired Mike Steinberg, who's the former legal director of the ACLU, to teach a civil rights litigation initiative. So students in this initiative work on civil rights cases under Mike's supervision. We have had multiple clinical teaching fellows come through our clinical teaching program and learn how to become clinical faculty. And then they go off and they have been very successful on the clinical job market, or in other cases have taken high-profile public interest jobs. And so the core of this program, as some of you may have experienced yourselves, is that students work really, really hard. They have an enormous amount of responsibility, and they use that responsibility to help the community. So I could not be prouder of this program, especially now during these challenging times. And then, in my last 2 minutes, I'll tell you a little bit about the clinic that I teach in specifically. So the Pediatric Advocacy Clinic is a medical legal partnership clinic. We're partnered with the University of Michigan Children's Hospital and other surrounding healthcare centers. And we represent low-income families on civil legal matters that are connected to child health and well-being. So in ordinary times, what this means is that we might represent the parents of a child with a disability who's not getting appropriate accommodations in school. Or we might represent the parents of a child with a chronic illness who needs some sort of treatment and Medicaid is refusing to cover the treatment. We also do a fair amount of family law cases where often we're representing survivors of domestic violence. In COVID time, things have shifted a little bit. We've been working more closely with the palliative care team at the Children's Hospital to help parents understand how to temporarily give decision-making authority to other people should they fall ill. We've started taking on some of these compassionate release cases, and also we've been helping out the Workers' Rights Clinic with their unemployment insurance cases as well. And actually, we've been doing a higher percentage of domestic violence cases than usual in our clinic. Overall, I have to say that I constantly marvel at our students. They work extremely hard. They are so engaged. It's like by helping others, they get a little respite from the worry that would otherwise consume them. So I love this job. I feel extremely fortunate to have it, and I would be very happy to answer any questions you have after my esteemed colleagues speak with you.
Thank you, Deborah. And thank you so much, John, for the introduction. It's nice to see everyone here. And I'm going to talk to you about the Transactional Law Clinics program and the 3 transactional clinics that we have here at Michigan Law School. So when you were here, you may not have had a transactional clinic here, because our first transactional clinic was formed in 1991. It is the Community Enterprise Clinic, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. The Transactional Law program actually is something that, it's a program that we started last year to really emphasize the breadth of the transactional work that we have in our 3 transactional clinics here at Michigan Law School. And we established it in order to emphasize to our students the types of skills that those who are interested in taking transactional or those who are interested in being transactional lawyers could develop in any of our transactional clinics. And our 3 transactional clinics are the International Transactions Clinic, the Community Enterprise Clinic, which I just mentioned, and the Entrepreneurship Clinic. And this umbrella program, in addition to emphasizing to our students the types of transactional skills that they can gain in any of these clinics, it's also designed to make it easier for clients who are interested in receiving transactional services to apply to the clinics to receive services from these 3 clinics. So in any of our 3 transactional clinics, students learn typical skills that effective transactional attorneys need. And these skills include client intake, client interviewing, client matter and project planning, counseling, contract drafting, oral and written communication skills, ethical legal practice, cross-cultural lawyering, and reflective lawyering. And depending on which particular clinic students take, they get exposed to different types of transactional work. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each clinic and the work that each of the transactional clinics do and how students are managing their clinic and client work during these very uncertain times. So first I'll talk about the International Transaction Clinic. And this is the one transactional clinic that I have not taught in, but I am, familiar with the work that they do. They represent for-profit and nonprofit clients located in the United States and in other countries. And these organizations need help with financing, transactions, and other types of transactional matters. And the class is actually currently being taught in a hybrid format by the professor, David Gunther, who's in person, and some students are attending class in person. Other students are attending class on Zoom. And I understand it's a very challenging teaching environment to engage with students in the class in a mask and having students online and trying to engage with each other, but they're making the best of it. Now, since most of the clients of the International Transactions Clinic are outside of Michigan, students tended to meet with their clients virtually before the pandemic. So in terms of client interactions, that really hasn't altered as much because of the format of the ITC. But students, of course, don't have access to office space, and they're finding other ways to get the information that they need. So the next clinic I'll talk about is the Entrepreneurship Clinic, and I am the founding director of that clinic. And we founded the clinic because the University of Michigan has a very robust entrepreneurial ecosystem. And students that are both undergrad and graduate students are engaging in a lot of entrepreneurial activity, creating their own businesses, and they needed quality legal services to start their businesses and to protect their ideas. So we started the clinic in 2012 to solely represent University of Michigan student startups. And this was the first clinic of its kind to just represent students. And the clinic has been extremely well received. And, people, a lot of law students are interested in entrepreneurship and just really interested in being a part of the ecosystem. As Deborah mentioned, we've hired a couple of new people in the clinic, which has been wonderful to handle the number of students and clients who are applying to the clinic. We hired somebody who handles primarily business matters, Tiffany Sadek, and Tim Murphy, who handles intellectual property matters. We also have a fellow in the clinic as well. A couple of years ago, we decided to expand our representation of startups beyond the University of Michigan ecosystem, and we are now representing startups across southeastern Michigan. Most of the legal issues that the students handle in the clinic are those that junior associates handle in firms. So they work on entity formation issues, intellectual property protection, financing, worker classification issues. They draft privacy policies and terms of use and other contracts. So they really get a lot of real world experience that I've heard from students over the years who have gone into a startup practice have been able to translate into the work that they're actually doing in their firms. Most of the startups that we work with are technology oriented, and they've created different types of technologies, such as a baby bottle that is easy to flip inside out. If you've ever had to clean a baby bottle, they're not pleasant to clean. So we had an inventor who tried to solve that problem, as well as a startup that created a drone that accesses technology on tall buildings. We've also represented other startups that are not technology oriented, like we've represented a gelato company. And in addition to the direct client work that the Entrepreneurship Clinic takes on, they also hold office hours, used to be around campus, where they would talk to entrepreneurs, mostly student entrepreneurs, about common legal issues they have. And they would also give workshops to entrepreneurs around campus. And finally, there's also a blog that the Entrepreneurship Clinic has, and the students write the blog entries, and the blog addresses common legal issues that startups deal with. We have very close ties with the Zell Entrepreneurs Program because our founding donor was Sam Zell, and we work closely with the Zell Lurie the Zell Lurie Institute and the Zell Entrepreneurs, as well as other entrepreneurial organizations around campus. And the final transactional clinic I'll talk about is the Community Enterprise Clinic, which I mentioned first. It has gone through many different iterations of names, and originally started out as a clinic that provided legal assistance to affordable housing developers in Detroit. We are still a clinic that's committed to the development and revitalization of disinvested urban communities, Detroit being the primary one in southeastern Michigan that we work in, but we also work in Ypsilanti and other disinvested urban communities. And we represent organizations that are seeking economic, racial, and social justice in their communities and provide them with transactional legal assistance. So we represent community-based organizations, nonprofits, social enterprises, cooperatives, and neighborhood-based small businesses. And many of those neighborhood-based small businesses are connected with another program called the Detroit Neighborhood Entrepreneurs Project, which is based in the Policy School and was started by a Michigan law professor and now the dean of the Policy School, Michael Barr, to provide legal assistance to neighborhood-based small businesses in Detroit. We did hire, as Deborah mentioned, another faculty member, a visiting faculty member in the clinic, and we also have a fellow. Gauri Krishna is from New York Law School, visiting from New York Law School, and Kelly Pfeiffer is the fellow. So, you know, our students, as Deborah mentioned, are very resilient and very engaged. And even though it's challenging for us to really, you know, see if we're developing rapport with our students, and for our students to be meeting virtually with their clients, they're still really enthusiastic about the opportunity to provide legal services to these organizations and small businesses that wouldn't otherwise have access to the information. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about our work. And if you have any questions, I'll wait until the end and I'll pass it along to my colleague, Matt Andres.
Thank you, Dana. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Andres. I am the director of the Veterans Legal Clinic. The Veterans Legal Clinic is, I believe, the newest clinic still at the law school, although it's been around since 2015. I was hired in 2017 to be the director of the clinic from, as John mentioned, from the University of Illinois College of Law. The Veterans Legal Clinic is really the most general of the clinics at Michigan Law School. We handle any kind of civil litigation case for veterans. We will do just about any type of case that includes housing law, family law. We do employment cases. We do a lot of consumer disputes, financial exploitation, disability discrimination, and then we do a couple of things particular to veterans. We do discharge upgrades in particular, but we don't do veterans benefits like most veterans clinics do across the country. We're unique in that regard. And really, we are the only legal services provider in Michigan that is focused on providing general civil litigation legal services for veterans. So we are filling a very important role, I think, in the state, and we certainly have no problem getting cases. We go really anywhere in Southeast Michigan to handle a case, and we have a very full docket. We really try to focus on the financial, emotional, and sometimes physical health of our clients, and we try to keep them in their housing, maintain their relationships with their children or other family members, and also try to ensure their financial stability as well. We are frequently in court. Each of our student pairs this semester has already had at least one substantive court hearing, including one evidentiary hearing that lasted all day. A couple weeks ago was a 9 to 4 evidentiary hearing, and a pair of depositions that two students took for a whole afternoon, and both those sets did that 2 weeks into the clinic. So it was not an easy task for them to jump in and take those things on. We are, as you might imagine, everything is on Zoom right now. So we are always dressed to the nines from the waist up, and then wearing whatever we want from the waist down. But in fact, I thought I would go as a 2020 lawyer for Halloween and wear a suit jacket and shirt and tie, and then a pair of shorts and flip-flops on the bottom, because that's much of our time these days. But the students are finding that our Zoom hearings are just as nerve-wracking as real hearings, and just as valuable in terms of the experience that they're getting. And I think they really take them seriously and enjoy them. Our students in the VLC work in pairs, and those student pairs really are fully responsible for all of their cases, all the activities in their cases, including interviewing their clients, drafting motions, pleadings, discovery, investigating their clients' claims, negotiating with opposing parties, conducting motion hearings, depositions, and even trials when those do occur. And really, then I am there, and our other supervisor. We're both there to make sure that they are doing top-notch work, because we believe that our clients deserve the very best in legal representation, and we ensure that they get that. And usually what our students don't have behind them in terms of experience or necessarily in-depth knowledge of the types of cases we're doing is that they hustle. And we beat other attorneys with hustle. We call people back, we investigate, we spend time preparing our clients, and we get really good results because of that, because the students take our cases very seriously. We also teach a class that goes along with the clinic, and in the class we focus on litigation skills. We also do some group problem solving on different case issues. We spend a fair amount of time talking about ethical dilemmas that the students are facing as well. I really love teaching the VLC for, I think, many of the same reasons that the students enjoy being a part of it. We handle a wide variety of cases. We get to fight for veterans who are very deserving of our services, and it's an opportunity for all of us to pay them back. And I get to go to court with students and see them experience their first time in court. We work together to make sure they're prepared and to make sure that they feel comfortable going into it. But I get to see them get all nervous and then do it, and then realize, you know what, I can actually do this. This is something I didn't know that I could. I didn't know if I had what it takes to be an attorney, and it turns out that we do. We had a recent case success that I was very excited about a week or two ago. We got a law changed in Michigan, actually, that prohibits people with felony drug convictions from getting food assistance in the state. And we filed a federal lawsuit several months ago with a number of constitutional issues raised in it against this. We filed it against the state of Michigan and against Governor Whitmer. I know she's got bigger things to deal with than that, but we had to include her in on it. They saw our lawsuit, and before we even had to argue anything, they decided they were going to change the law. That was enough to compel them to change it. So we had a big victory that we were very excited about in the VLC, and a lot of our cases are just usual housing cases and that sort of thing. But every once in a while, we get a chance to make a bigger impact to a larger group of people. I think that Deborah and Dana have talked about COVID and everything that's changed here. And certainly life is different now for us. Most things feel sort of normal these days. Our real impediment is connecting with some of our clients, especially our more elderly clients. We have one client who's 93 years old and in an assisted living facility, and we can't visit him. And there really isn't any way to effectively communicate with him over the phone. So his case, unfortunately, is on hold for a while. And we've had some of those issues. There are clients that we would have much better contact with if we could just have them in the office or go visit them. And that's become challenging. But on the good side, we have gotten rid of our paper files. I don't think we'll ever go back to those. And we've stopped driving 2 hours round trip for a 5-minute hearing. So those 5-minute hearings take about 5 minutes of time to put my suit jacket on, and then 2 minutes to take it off at the end. So that's all we're saving a lot of time. As John mentioned, I came here from the University of Illinois, where I directed an elder financial exploitation clinic. I've also taught at Cooley Law School and the University of Cincinnati. And I've been teaching in clinics for about 12 years. And I have to tell you that I am an alum, so I've always been a bit biased towards the University of Michigan. But I always, while I was teaching at those other places, I always looked at Michigan and thought, wow, that is really the creme de la creme of clinical programs. I mean, they really are the best. They have the most clinics, they have the best clinical professors, and the best faculty. I was so excited to be hired here 3 years ago and to get a chance to join this group. And I have to tell you, I have not at all been disappointed in our clinics, in the law school, and in the faculty that we have in the clinics. It really, I am just so proud of being a part of this group, doing the work that we're doing in the clinics. It's such a cooperative environment. We do such great things together, and we really work together to help each other out and to solve big issues. And you know, it is just really a pleasure to be here at the University of Michigan, and you all should be very proud, as I am, of being an alum of a school that devotes so much, you know, so much thought and effort and money. It takes money too, to clinical programs, because we provide outstanding experiences to students here at Michigan. They come out practice ready from all of our clinics, and we get a lot of support from the other members of the faculty too, who are non-clinical faculty. And that's really important, because I've worked at other places, and it's not like that everywhere. And so this really is a special place, and I think we should all be proud to be Michigan law alums and to be part of this. So with that, I will turn it back over to John, and thank you very much for having me here.
Thanks to everyone. I mean, when I did this in 1983 and 84, the clinic in its entirety was in a little room at the end of the reading room, and there were 2 people in there. There was an assistant named Kathy, and there was Paul, and I think that was the staff. And it's just remarkable to hear, and I've been paying attention, but every year it's remarkable to hear about the growth in the program, the growth in the number of programs, the growth in the number of students, and the fact that 1Ls are even considered to do clinic is a tremendous thing, because I know how rare it is in the law school world at this level of law schools to have that kind of experiential educational opportunity available from the get-go. And it's, I'm sure, the most profound experience they have, and they don't realize it when they're having it, but it's definitely the most profound experience that they have. And I'm sure they look back on it and wish they could have done more, even as much as they do. I know there was even a concept of allowing students to do 2 if they could. I don't know if that's possible or not, but doing 2 and 3, it was hard enough to get 2 L's to do 1. But the idea of doing 2 is it's awesome. And I credit everybody who works for the clinic for passing along that level of experience. I guess I'll just remind everyone, if they want to ask questions, to put them in the chat, and then I'll pass it on to the dean to talk more.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody. And we're getting some great questions in the chat, so thank you for contributing them. I'll answer some, and I'll also turn it over to my colleagues to answer some too. But one thing that came to mind as Matt was talking about how he talks to the students and how empowered the students are to provide excellent representation to their clients, I always tell my students that they're a secret weapon, that all the opposing counsel underestimate them, and they don't realize that our students maybe have 2 or 3 or maybe 4 cases in a semester to focus on, whereas obviously practicing lawyers have many more cases that divide their attention. And our students they're so earnest and they're so hardworking that really, truly, our clients are not at a disadvantage when they have law students representing them. So some of the questions we've received, people want to know, are students graded on their clinics? The answer is yes. Clinics used to be pass-fail at the law school, but we've switched to graded clinics, mostly because that's what the students wanted, which is fine. And in terms of the numbers of students who are in a clinic, it really depends on how many faculty members are teaching in that clinic. There's an 8-to-1 student-faculty ratio. So a clinic that has more faculty members in any given semester will have a higher number of students. And then there was a question, do students take more than one clinic in law school? Yes, a bunch of them do, because they just really love their clinical experience. The question of what's the most rewarding thing about teaching in the clinics, I can tell you what's rewarding for me, but I don't want to dominate too much. So Dana, why don't you take that one and tell us what's most rewarding for you about teaching in the clinics?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And for me, there are a couple of things that are rewarding about the work that I do. One, I am so passionate about being able to provide legal services and resources to communities that are underserved. And I have an opportunity to do that as a clinical professor. But what is even more, I guess, a wonderful gift about the work that I do in the clinic is that I'm able to share this with the students and see the students develop into reflective and effective problem-solving attorneys who begin to understand the concerns of underrepresented clients. And it's so rewarding. And Deborah and Matt talked about just seeing the students empowered. And it's rewarding to see the students transition from being kind of more passive students at the beginning of the semester, just kind of thinking they can, sit back, maybe in the seminar sessions and just receive information, to becoming very active and engaged problem-solving attorneys who are effective at counseling their clients on issues. And my students don't go to court. We don't go to court as transactional attorneys, but the work that we do in representing them on various legal issues and giving them advice that they wouldn't otherwise receive, and to see the students empowered and confident in their ability to do it is just really such a gift to me, and it's one of the best parts of the job.
Yeah. Thank you, Dana. I also want to apologize. I know it sounds like there's a fan in the back of me, but it's because during COVID, I have 3 children at home and my husband, and everybody's talking or playing video games. So it's a noise machine. So that way they don't disrupt us. So you're hearing a noise machine instead of my family, because that's the world we're living in right now. Matt, I'll give the next question to you. It's, how are the courts or the friend of the courts handling hearings and trials during the time of COVID? Because I know you've spent a lot of time in hearings lately.
Yes, we have. They're actually doing a pretty good job. It took courts a long time to get up and running. We had months where we had nothing in court. We had lots of things scheduled. We always do it towards the end of a semester, and everything got pushed back. We had nothing from basically March 12th. I think March 11th was our last court hearing, and we had nothing until the first week of May. We finally had a friend of the court hearing in Livingston County. But many courts have still been slow in getting up and going. But courts are handling those things pretty well. Most of the actual in-court sessions are broadcast on YouTube, actually, so you can see for yourself how they go. I think maybe that keeps everybody behaving a little better, believe it or not, knowing that it's broadcast out there to everyone in the world. But I've done several evidentiary hearings online so far, and taken testimony from my bedroom or from my deck, depending on where my internet is accessible at the time. I spend most of my time chasing a good internet signal. But yeah, it actually runs quite smoothly, very similar to being in court. It's nice that that a judge could mute somebody when they won't shut up or when they don't realize that they're talking too loud or something like that. There are some advantages of being on Zoom, but we spend a fair amount of time in Zoom waiting rooms too, looking at things that say the host will let us in soon. But no, the students do a good job. Our clients, you know, it is great for some of our clients who would have difficulties getting to court because they have jobs or other things. It's not so good for some other clients who have technical issues and hurdles that they have to get over. And so it's kind of a tough thing for that. But I had a judge last week say that he is never going to do pretrials in person ever again, that he can get through so many more and so much quicker and inconvenience people so much less by doing them on Zoom. So I think some of this is here to stay. I don't think evidentiary hearings and other things will continue to be done on Zoom after this, but I certainly think some of the shorter hearings will be.
Mm-hmm. We also got the question, these questions are great and we're getting lots of them. So how does Michigan law's commitment to clinics compare to other top 10 schools? Sorry, I'm reading off my second screen next to me. And what does the future of clinical legal education look like? So as you can tell just by the breadth and depth of our program, Michigan law has a very serious commitment to experiential education and to clinical legal education specifically. I mean, the fact that we went from having 1 or 2 clinics in the 80s to 17 or even 18, depending on how you count today, and that we've been right now there's a hiring freeze, but we have been doing a lot of hiring in recent years. Over 80% of our students take a clinic before they graduate, and it's not mandatory, it is optional, but many of our students really want this experience and know that it'll give them extremely valuable skills before they go out into the world of practice. And we also have a clinical guarantee. Any Michigan law student is guaranteed a spot in an upper level clinic. And so you need to have a broad clinical program to meet that guarantee. So that's just another thing that demonstrates the law school's commitment to this type of education. And the ABA has been moving in the direction of requiring more experiential educational credits. So, I mean, our commitment is consistent with legal education's commitment to experiential education. So we're just doing it really well. All right, let's see, what other questions do we have? Oh, one question we got is, how did the construction of Jeffries Hall help the clinics? And what is the effect of having the clinics together and with more space? So this question sort of fills me with longing because I miss being in Jeffries Hall with all of my colleagues. I don't know if many of you have been into Jeffries Hall since it was built in 2012, but it's a really beautiful space with beautiful student workrooms and faculty offices. And it's done a lot to really foster community among members of the clinical faculty because we see each other all the time, and among the students because they share workspace or their clinic workspaces are all on the second floor of Jeffries Hall. So it's really been a wonderful addition. And I look forward to one day being back in that building. This summer, I was on a bike ride in Traverse City randomly and ran into Matt Andres on a bike trail in Traverse City. And it was like a celebrity sighting because we never get to see each other in person anymore. So I do miss the sense of community that comes with that building. Another question we received is, does the Child Advocacy Clinic still exist or did it morph into another program? It is going strong. It still exists. There are multiple different faculty members who teach in that clinic, and they're still representing children and parents who are caught up in the child welfare system. So that is one of our very oldest, earliest clinics, and we are dedicated to it and proud of it. And this question is a hard one because I didn't prepare for it. So what are the highest profile cases that our clinics have handled and high profile examples of clinic students who have gone on to do great things? I know, so if you pay attention to the news, you'll see that our Innocence Clinic works exceptionally hard over many, many years to exonerate people who are wrongfully incarcerated. Those cases are always cause for real celebration because of the amount of work that puts into the results that they get. It's truly astounding. And I don't know if Matt or Dana can come up with examples of clinic students who have gone on to do great things. I know there are many. I do, and I'd be happy to follow up with a list. I'm sure actually the alumni office is probably better at that than I am, and probably you are examples of clinic students who have gone on to do great things. And then another question we got is any clinic dealing with the economic impact of COVID on small businesses, leases or contracts? And Dana, maybe I'll turn that one over to you.
Sure. So this summer, we received a lot of inquiries from our current clients, both small business clients and nonprofit organizations, about how to actually restart their business or restart their work safely with individuals working with their organization or their business. And we responded to those issues. We haven't had a lot of questions about how to handle leases and contracts from a lot of different clients. Individual clients, depending on what they're doing, would come up with particular questions about, moving forward with leases or how to deal with certain contract issues, but we didn't really get those questions en masse. And it's not something that we really provided a workshop on or something like that. But that's actually a really good topic for our clinic, to both the Community Enterprise Clinic and the Entrepreneurship Clinic, to engage with our clients in a workshop. So thank you for asking the question and for giving us an idea of something that our students can do to help business clients on those issues.
Thank you for all of your wonderful questions. I think we are in our final moments, and so we're turning things back over to John, who is muted.
There we go. Maybe the best part of Zoom, a 4 o'clock conference starts at 4, and when it says it's going to end at 5, it ends at 5. And nobody wastes time at the beginning and nobody wastes time at the end. So thanks to all three of you for putting on a great display of all the work that Clinic is doing. Thanks to the staff too for helping to put the whole thing together. The next event like this is on Human Trafficking Clinic on Tuesday, October 20th at 4 to 5. So if you want to stay in tune with what's going on, check into that one as well. And with that, we'll thank everyone who attended and hope to see everyone again at another program. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.